Good morning, Mr. Steve Frost. How are you?
Doing fabulous, thank you. How are you?
I am good. So, first things first, let's talk about the Fed meeting yesterday. I think the topic of conversation is probably going to be more leaning towards you today. So
Yes.
I read it this morning. Not the greatest news, but we'll plow through it and we'll talk about it. So what's up?
So yeah, I mean the what the Fed does, there's the meeting, and we knew that the meeting would leave rates the same. And then it's really there's a statement that the Fed provides after their meeting, and then there's a press conference. And that the press conference is really when Jerome Powell's kind of off the cuff, and he can kind of just say what he thinks and stuff like that. And so, really there was nothing new and exciting. The market mover initially was that they were going to hold off on raising rates, that they were not going to raise them in March, like many of the markets had planned on. However, after the last Fed meeting, a lot of the bond trading and people that matter anyway have already positioned themselves into expecting them to raise rates a little bit later in the year. So the one thing that the Fed did change in their statement, though, and this is like really getting into the weeds of this, but they added verbiage in there that said before they could cut rates, they wanted to gain greater confidence. And so by saying gain greater confidence that inflation was going to return to a 2% level in the future is basically them saying, okay, we are done raising rates. Like the tightening cycle is done, and we are now ready to cut rates. So if you really look at the analytics in that, you look at like a 2-year treasury, like a short-term treasury or short-term bonds, really had a positive reaction to that part of the market. And even in the long-term bonds, we saw a very positive reaction to that. So we saw the bonds, bond yields fall quite a bit, which is a good thing. So, nothing came out of that really moved the markets. There was initially a drop, and then they went back up, and then they kind of leveled out, and we really ended up where we started the day. And the markets are still just going to continue to watch data, right? And so we got yesterday, actually, before the Fed even met, we got private payrolls, and the private payrolls is how many jobs were created by private businesses. So this isn't the government and farm payrolls. This is the private payrolls, and it missed bad. They created like 107,000 jobs. They're like 150, 160,000 jobs. So that really pushed rates better an eighth to a quarter of a percent yesterday. We had a great interest rate day. Fed met, rates all kind of got a little bit worse. And then at the end of the Fed meeting, they digested all the information and rates went back down. So, we're still just really watching data right now. The Fed, it was nice that they said, they made some of the statements that they did, but those aren't really going to be the, like I've said before, them lowering their rate isn't going to be the big market mover that we're looking for. It's going to be them saying that they're going to start lowering rates. So gain greater confidence is kind of uh like a prologue, or is that what it is? What you read before you read a book? I don't know, like the first part of the book before you actually get to the good stuff. So they're kind of leading into that conversation.
Okay, okay. Now, originally, was there a I did read this. I just want to confirm it for you. They said that there was supposed to be a rate cut in possibly March, and they kind of rescinded on that. Was that previously, or was that from the meeting yesterday?
So that's the thing. The Fed never said that. So there's market predictions and people that track what they think the Fed is going to do.
Okay.
And that goalpost actually got pushed back looking at some of the labor data and stuff that we received in the last couple of weeks. So like I said, there's a lot of predictors out there that think that was going to happen, and that's what we really saw rates come down so much recently from the highs. Which you got to think we're like 8%, and now we're trading at like 6.5, 6.625. So we've made that big jump already. So now it's just going to slowly kind of creep down as the rate of inflation continues to decrease.
Got it. Okay. So how long do you think that we'll stay at this point that we're at before we see any? I mean, we've made a huge improvements over the past few months. What do you think will have to happen, or how long do you think it'll happen before we start making more and more improvements going downwards?
I would say the next bigger move will probably come like late spring, early summer, when we'll see another bigger, ideally a bigger move in rates, which would probably take us closer to like 6.25%, maybe around 6. You never know what could happen in between there. But I think that by that time, we're going to be, because you're comparing year over year information, right? So when you're looking at like apartment rents and some of this lagging information, it's going to start catching up where it's improving, because like even the Fed knows that in order for the effects of what they've done with raising rates takes 12 to 18 months to actually make its way into the economy and actually start changing things. And so we're getting to that window, to the latter part of that window, where we've really been running at these higher, very restrictive policy guidelines. And so I think that by the time summer rolls around, that'll be our next big move in rates,
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. And
which is
for
not that far away. I
yeah,
mean,
that's not far away at all.
we're 90 days away from flip-flops in
Yeah.
Michigan, which we were
Yep.
flip-flops when it's like 50, but still we're not that far from that, right? Like what's the
Yeah,
date 90 days from now? Is that like June,
absolutely.
May? I
Yeah.
don't know.
So I mean, my prediction on the housing market from that is just, I mean, we're already seeing, sellers kind of come to the forefront and listing is upticking, especially from where we were last year. But this little lull that we're going to have before that rate drop might happen is a good opportunity if you're a buyer to come out in the forefront and make some opportunities happen. Because if we do get to that 90 days from now, not only is the weather going to be breaking where it is Michigan's home buying season, if we have a rate drop that's with that, we're going to see things kind of go crazy like we have in the past few years. Would you agree, Steve?
Yeah, I'm truth be told, I'm seeing a lot of it right now. And it's just because inventory is so tight right now.
Yeah.
Um, and especially with, I think most of the people that see this are in Michigan or have an interest in the Michigan market. And if you've been living in the same Michigan I have, this weather has been just awful. I mean, I've like swear words lined up, but I'm going to hold back on those for how bad the weather's been. So I think that's really limited the inventory. So I'm seeing right now, like I was at a house listed at 335,000 and my clients just submitted an offer last night at 365.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean it's already starting to pick up, and we're doing a loan for them. They did some strategy with how we set up the loan and all that, and they're doing a rate at 6.375. So there's rates are good, and there's not a lot of inventory. So it's a hot market for a seller right now.
Yeah. It is crazy to think that I mean, we're at the top of February and like I said last month, we kind of already seen the spring market start. But if we do end up seeing, like I said, in the next 90 days, where we have a rate drop on top of the weather breaking, I think that it'll be a little bonkers for a little while.
Yeah, for sure.
Anything else you have to say, Steve?
That's it, man. Again, just if for anybody that's seeing this, and again, this is my shameless plug, and I don't do this often. I don't advertise or do any of that. But if you've done a loan or you bought a home in the last 90 days, get your mortgage reviewed. Call me, call your mortgage guy, call whoever you want, but get your mortgage looked at. We're taking people out of 7% loans right now and putting them at better interest rates for little to no cost. So um we're making homes more affordable for people that got in them, and they're so happy that it's already happening. So even if you just bought your house, take a look. I mean, you never know.
Awesome. Thanks, Steve.
That's my shameless plug, man.
Absolutely. All right. We'll see you next week.
All right, man. Have a good one.
All right. Take care.